Want to know what it's like to build a successful clothing brand through social media? Well, you're in luck. Today, we're going to talk with the founders of Real Skipper, Michelle Jessica Lynn and Samantha Allen, where they share their secrets. Ready to learn? Let's do it. Welcome to the Social Media Lawcast, the world's first and only podcast on the effect of social media on the law. Hi, I am your host, social media attorney Ethan Wall. Yes, that is a real thing. And we're going to talk all things about social media and the law. But we're also, on an episode like today, we have the chance to interview influential people in the social media space and entrepreneurs just like you who are building successful brands and successful businesses. And I am so excited to invite two of my coolest friends on the episode today. We have the pleasure of speaking with Michelle Jessica Lynn and Samantha Allen, two best friends who dreamed of creating activewear for the water that is fashionable as it is functional and brought the brand Real Skipper to life. Michelle, Sam, what's going on?
Hey, Ethan. Nice to be on here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, that was a great intro. Thanks. I feel
cool.
And
very generous with the influential part.
Yeah.
So.
No, for sure. If I have to think of two influencers that come to mind that I actually know, you two are topping the list. So I'm stoked that you are here.
Thank you.
When's the last time the three of us have been together? Like, I've seen you both separately. Sam and I ran into each other at a bagel shop recently.
Yeah.
But the three of us used to be together all the time, but I can't remember the last time the three of us were in a room. Do you two remember?
No. I think I do.
My to Sam, she has a memory. Yeah.
I'll answer this question. I believe that we either were at the apartment that Michelle and I shared in Delray Beach, which actually is like my backyard now, or that in that same day we went out in Delray Beach together, and that was, I mean, it had to be before 2014. Yeah, if not 2014, right?
Wow. Yeah.
Way too long. But I'm glad we're all back here together. And each of us go way back. I remember, Michelle, you and I used to serve on the Dade County Bar Association Young Lawyers Section Board of Directors together.
That's right.
Way back in the day. That's a TBT.
Yeah, definitely. Back when we were both traditional attorneys.
Right. Do you remember, right, you were working with Barbara, I remember, I think, doing real estate law?
Yeah, Barbara Riceberg doing commercial litigation and real estate law. And we both, And you were where again at the time?
I was at Richmond Greer, so I was playing real lawyer. I had no beard, completely clean shaven. I'd wear a suit and tie every day. I would roll in at a reasonable hour. I feel like I was living not myself, like not my own life. You know, I was like playing adult at that time, and trying to kind of be, someone that maybe I wasn't. And now we kind of get to be ourselves and do what we love. But someone that has always been herself and always done what she loves is Sam, because I remember it wasn't the first time that I met Sam, but somewhere in the very beginning, I'm at 24 Hour Fitness in Coconut Grove. And there's this woman, right? And there's like a medicine ball, and she's doing one-armed handstand push-ups against the wall on this medicine ball. And I'm like, this is the fittest chick going. And lo and behold, it turns out to be Sam.
Yeah, I knew you were going to tell that story. I wish it was 100% true. I wish I was that strong, but it's not completely inaccurate. So yeah, that was me.
Okay.
And Sam still is a fitness girl.
Yeah, still in the gym
regularly.
Not much has changed.
No.
Can you flex for me? Can we see who's?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, it's you. It's so you. So this kind of brings up a big point. Sam, I'll kind of flip it to you first. So many people in life want to go the traditional route. Okay, they think about, how can I make money? How can I do the best at business possible? And we don't think instead of something that I think you and Michelle have done, which is take something that you're passionate about, whether it is fitness, being outdoors and doing something like that, and then turning it into what you do for a living and kind of combining the passion and combining that together. Like, what was your frame of mind when you said, you know what, I want to take something I'm passionate about and then build a business about it. How did that go for you mentally?
Well, it hasn't been easy, and it's actually a little bit of a struggle. I think the best is to have a mix of the both things. Following your passion, but also having some sort of like plan and figuring out how you're going to make money. Um, because when you are just only following your passion, sometimes you could get lost, and you need a little bit of direction. So I guess I could say there was a lot of uncertainty, and yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. That's kind of like what it felt like for me
No, and I think a lot
at
of
the
people
time.
feel that too. I think people see entrepreneurs that follow their passions and think, boy, these people have it all figured out. They know exactly what they're doing. And they don't realize, like, all of us struggle in the very
Yeah,
beginning. And you know what? I'm still struggling now.
me too.
You know?
Me three.
Yeah. All the
Yeah.
entrepreneurs out there who are like, man, I'm here to get some sage advice. Well, guess what the advice is? All of us are struggling every day.
Hmm.
I remember one of my heroes, Ray Dalio, being like, look, we all struggle, whether you're like the CEO of Apple or whether you're doing something. It's just we push through the struggles and find ways to work it out. Um,
Yeah.
I was actually thinking about you, Ethan, the other day because I think in past posts that you've shared, you talk about the ups and downs of entrepreneurship and how it's like a constant roller coaster. And Sam and I just came off of this long tear of like an amazing sales season. We broke records. It was like a super huge high, got into some stores, that we were dreaming about. And it was only like a month after that I'm back to feeling completely freaked out and completely lost
Yeah.
because you go from up here and then all of a sudden you have to figure out, okay, well, we booked all this business. Now we have to make the clothes and now we have to get financing and now we have to find a bigger space. And all of a sudden, this exciting time like very quickly spirals into very dark place. And so it just like reminds you that like it's a journey and one day you're feeling amazing and the next day you feel incredibly lost and scared, and it's very topsy-turvy, just to add on to what Sam was talking about.
for
Yeah.
sure. It's like when we're in it, we feel the highest highs and we feel the lowest lows. Like we can see us climbing and getting up to new heights that we haven't gone before. And we feel that. And it's exciting because we see beyond what we were able to kind of vision for ourselves. But then when things are falling or things aren't good or we're struggling, like we feel that dip. Like that feeling in your stomach you get when you're going down the roller coaster and you're like, oh crap, this isn't good. Like feeling that on a day-to-day basis sometimes is hard. And I think it's hard for us to sometimes take a step back and see the roller coaster from the high level and say in life there's always going to be ups and downs. But sometimes the trajectory looks like this up and down wave. And for those on the podcast, you can't see, but those who are watching on video, you can. But so long as the trend is kind of upward in a way, or you're learning from those downs to be able to turn the loop back upward, then we're always pushing forward. And we're always
Right.
finding new ways to get through those hard times. And it's not that we, you know, like the hard times, but I think they shape us in a way. They kind of harden us, just like the calluses on Sam's hand when she's
Stop.
deadlifting those 315 pounds.
Oh my God.
Well, and I think a big takeaway too is that those downs are not necessarily downs at all, and a lot of times they're completely fabricated by your mind. And so
Yeah.
you got to keep yourself in check because Sam is a great business partner for a million reasons, but one of the biggest reasons is that we're very different in this way. And Sam has a very laid back attitude about life generally, and she handles these things really well. So when I start spiraling, Sam usually is the one to
Yeah.
be like, Mishi. She always goes, Mishi, one step at a time.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Well, that's
Yeah.
really thoughtful.
Yeah, I'm mostly doing it too, so I don't spiral, because it's like it'd be like a chain reaction. Then you have two spiraling girls, and no, you don't want that.
No, for sure. You guys keep each other balanced.
Someone
And
has to be the strong one.
that,
In the gym and in the
Yeah,
mind.
that's right,
there you
basically.
go. There you go. All right. So tell me, we're working in the corporate worlds, we're doing our own things, but then you get this crazy idea for this outdoor wear company for women. Tell us, how did this even idea before it even became a brand? How did this passion turn into a business? Where did this all get started?
Before it was even a twinkle in our eye, Sam's brother-in-law started taking us out on his boat every weekend to go fishing. And if you're South Floridian or you've done offshore, you know you're on the boat for like 8 to 10 hours. You're in the sun the whole time. You get wet. So we didn't have the right clothes. We decided to go take a ride over to Bass Pro Shops. It was like 3 weeks in a row of being super uncomfortable with what we had on. And we get to the women's section.
I'm
And
sorry, your story's super interesting, but the cat that just walked into Sam's screen just really caught my interest. Sam, who's joining us on the podcast today?
This is Kisa.
Kisa. Hey, Kisa, would you please sign our waiver so that we can use your likeness on the podcast?
Yeah.
This is
Sure.
Kisa's butt. It's now making an appearance on video.
Kisa. That's how cats tell you that they love and trust you. They give
Aw.
you their butt. All right, Kisa.
I knew this was gonna happen.
Yeah, you can't control a cat, you know, they just like do what they want. So
You
she
know
wants
what?
my attention. I'm very sorry.
It's okay. This podcast is going to get so many more likes and subscribers now that we
People
have
love cat videos
exactly.
on social
True.
media in particular. All right.
So you're in Bass Pro Shop, okay? You're looking for what you need, and what do you find, or what do you not find?
We could not believe the limited options that there were for women. They were expensive and they were not that cute. So, and then you look at the men's section, it was full of options, super cool stuff, cutting edge technology. So we went home that night, and at the time we were actually roommates, and we're like, let's look into this a little bit more. Why is there no one catering to women? I don't think we're the only girls that like to fish. So we did some research, and it turns out that fishing is the biggest sport in the US. It's bigger than every other sport combined. And over a quarter of fishermen are actually women. So it's mind blowing. So from that day forward, we decided that we could fill the hole in this market. And we like looked at each other and were like, all right, if we're gonna do this, so we're gonna do this. And we made that decision and we just went for it.
Yeah.
Incredible. You brought something to
Blindly.
life that didn't exist.
Sorta.
That's right.
What was existing, just to add to Michelle's story there, is like it was basically men's garments made smaller. I think they use this term like shrink it and make it pink.
Oh yeah, shrink and pink it.
Shrink and pink it. Yeah, that's what it is. And it's like, that's not cute. You know, maybe for some women, but if you were to ask people, it's not. And so there was something there, but it just wasn't the right thing that women really wanted.
Okay, so now we're building what women want. We have the idea to say we're not gonna shrink it and pink it.
Yeah.
We're gonna curate and craft something that is made specifically for women. That's fashionable and functional. Something that you're going to be proud to wear when you're out in the boat, when you're out fishing, when you're out doing outdoor activities. But at the same time, it's also going to be functional. It's not just going to be a cute top or cute outfit that I can wear on a boat, but I'm going to be fishing. I'm going to be swimming. I'm going to be guarding myself from kind of the hot sun. And I want something that's going to help me with all these different types of activities. So you put this together, and I'm sure that there is a super long story of how we actually went to go ahead and manufacture it. But now that we've got some of these initial concepts, we also had to come up with creating a brand. And so what was the initial brand that you two dreamed up? Tell me about how this came to life.
You mean the name itself or just the whole concept?
Yeah, both the name and the concept.
Yeah, well, the name derives from, well, the word skipper is the same meaning as captain, but men seem to love to call themselves the captain. So we decided to call ourselves the skipper, and we're the real skipper because we're really the one in charge. So I don't know how we came up with that, but one night at the dining room table, that was the discussion we had, the brainstorm, and we got to that. And we just really envisioned a brand where you can create an entire outfit, a top that goes with a bottom. You can mix and match them. We have styles that range from super athletic and tight to very boxy and loose, depending on your preferences. The same for the bottom. And we have color stories, and we think through the inspiration for that particular collection, and it has to be cohesive and make sense. And we're utilizing concepts that are used in like the fashion industry for very like hardcore outdoor performance wear, that mindset is typically not brought into that. And so it was just kind of looking at something with a different lens that no one's done before. and just really thinking outside the box of what's been done over and over and over again.
Mhm. Now, when you create this brand, you're now taking a whole new spin on this. You're bringing something new that we have. And I remember when you first started bringing Real Skipper to life, this was at or about the time that Instagram was still kind of new. Instagram was out, but perhaps it really wasn't used in like the primary way to do marketing. And the Bass Pro Shops of the world ultimately came calling. But in the beginning, we're probably pivoting towards online and towards social media to help grow the business. What was some of the initial marketing strategies that you had to introduce Real Skipper to your audience and to grow the big, not only big audience, but a real dedicated audience that you've been able to curate over time?
That was the golden years of Instagram,
Yeah,
right,
the wild,
Sam?
wild west, as people
Yeah.
refer to it now. One thing
Yeah.
that we focused on heavily was user generated content. And at that time, especially, it was very, very cool. I mean, it still is cool to have brands repost you wearing uh, their gear. And that wasn't like uncommon from my knowledge at that time in 2014. So we did that, and that worked a lot. We gained a ton of followers that way. I think that's mostly what it was that we focused on, and we still do that today. If you look at our Instagram handle at Real Skipper, you'll see a lot of user generated content.
And what were you doing at the time? Were you having people tag you and then you would post it onto your platform? Would you have them use a hashtag? Would you have them send it to you in a DM? What was the strategy at that time to grow the amount of user generated content submissions that you were getting that you can then repurpose as part of the brand?
I believe it was all three of those things, right, Michelle?
Yeah.
People would tag
We
us
always
all the
encourage
time.
people.
Yeah, we had hashtags, one of which was hashtag keep it tight. And those were
And
popular.
what? Hashtags are interesting because
Mhm.
now today, some of our hashtags have been like
Oh, hijacked. Literally
hijacked
hijacked.
exactly from we don't even know what they're supposed to represent, but people from other countries posting things with Real Skipper that have nothing to do with their business. So
Yeah, it
it's
like
important
became
not to like rely solely on them.
it's bizarre how
Yeah,
that
for
happens.
sure. No, it's okay. I think that I'm texting our social media manager to start hijacking the Real Skipper hashtag so we can grow a following like yours too. Did you hear that? It
Yeah.
works for folks in India. It's got to work for us
Yeah,
too.
folks.
I think they are from India, so that's a good call.
It
Oh,
appears that they are, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. So okay. So so you've got people that are hijacking your hashtag, and that's something is just going to happen. It's very hard to protect a hashtag. It's not impossible, but it's very difficult to do so because using a hashtag in an Instagram post isn't like a trademarkable use in and of itself. Like everybody's got the ability to use hashtags, and so stopping people from being able to hijack that um, is a tough thing. So I know that your marketing strategy has pivoted and evolved over time, but we're going to get there. But in the very beginning, what are some things that you did to be able to protect the Real Skipper brand, knowing, hey, look, people might want to hijack our hashtags and it is what it is, but we want to build an identifiable brand. And so we're just not another outdoor apparel or fishing apparel company for women, but we are the fashionable function brand that you're actually building a community around that other women are resonating with and being empowered by and saying, you know what, I am the real skipper. I'm the real skipper of my ship. I'm the real skipper of my life. How did you go about protecting that at the beginning?
It's a good question. I mean, besides just, well, you know what? We did curate our content, you know, a certain way to make sure that we weren't posting things that didn't represent us. So the brand itself, what Real Skipper meant to people, was consistent, and it wasn't. But we wouldn't use just anything and everything that people gave us as UGC. We sometimes get like super provocative photos, and like those aren't our favorite because that's not really what we necessarily stand for. We're not a brand that's here to cater to like men's eyes. It's about empowering women in a male dominated sport. So we tend to go for more content that reflects that. And I think, you know, anyone right now could go and make a women's brand that is for fishing apparel, but you can't duplicate us. And that's the thing about fashion, is that I can't protect, a style that we've created. And actually, speaking of which, we've had one of our, original styles stolen by our competitors multiple times already, which at first is really frustrating. It makes you angry, and then, you're really flattered. And I can't protect that, but they're not doing what we do. And even after taking our design, they still can't create the thing that we made, because now it's a community. Now we have people rallying around it. Now people know what we stand for. Because when social media gives you the opportunity to create a sense of community with people. And so I think with social media, it's important to keep your brand image, clean and focused on who you really are and what you represent, and not letting that get muddled by just spitting out a ton of content just because someone gave it to you.
Yeah, because people are then going to see, just like if you're reproducing all that content, people are going to see this other company out there as the knockoff. They're going to say, ah, no, that's the real Skipper. That's the real Skipper look, and you're the knockoff brand. And when you're talking about building a community, do you want to be a part of the real, authentic community that helped to build this from the ground up and curate this naturally? Or do you want to be part of the community that copies other people and does it? And I
Right.
think that, you know what, it's going to perhaps take away for some sales initially from some like initial interest of people being like, oh, cool, I saw that that's out there. And then when they see, wait a minute, now I checked out Skipper. And now I see this as part of a larger branding concept. I see other women wearing it. I see them do it. And they kind of realize, these are the knockoffs over here. If you want the real thing, then you want to go with the brand that curates that from the beginning. And I remember years ago when you were on maybe your second or third catalog, you stepped up from UGC content to do what I still think is probably one of the coolest photo shoots that I've seen for a brand. I think that you had curated some content in Hawaii with some unbelievable like underwater shoots and things like that, that was just insane. What went into kind of taking the brand from being out there on Instagram, having UGC or user generated content, to really stepping up and kind of developing content that nobody else out there was creating?
Yeah, I think that comes from like Samantha and I going to trade shows, going to events where you meet people and you meet awesome photographers and you meet other people in this space. And big shout out to Perrin James, the photographer that was responsible for that shoot. He's amazing. Um, and because, we got to know him, we were lucky enough to be able to send him our clothes, because he had a network of models and people that he works with in Hawaii where he lives. And he provided us with an insane catalog of gorgeous photos that he did. So I think it really helps, being in the mix and making all of those networking contacts, and, befriending people that are in the same space as you and have the same interests.
Yep. And in that particular season, just to add to this, was like the first time, and maybe I'm not correct about this, correct me. That was like the first time I feel like we like took a big step, and we're like, we're going to do our first ever like very professional catalog with these great photos. Whereas before, not that it didn't look good, but like we didn't necessarily have the resources, or at least we didn't feel that we did, to do that. And so it was a big jump in our efforts there too.
Yeah, it was one of, I think, one of the biggest. You probably look back and say, we all evolve, businesses evolve, we evolve kind of as humans, like that big turning point where perhaps we went from a business that started with two awesome women in their dining room dreaming something up, to saying, hey, we are bigger than this. We are seeing a vision that's out there. We are not playing what is there. We are playing something that's not there, that no one else is doing, and really step things up. And that was one of the major evolutions in the brand. Where is real Skipper, or where is kind of Skipper evolving now? Where does the brand go from here?
We're trying to grow our footprint, even in the US, let alone worldwide. We've been utilizing trade shows, and we're mostly a wholesale business where we sell to other retailers to have us available in their stores. And so we finally broke in and got into some big box retailers that people will be able to find us at soon. And we know it's going to snowball from there and start gaining a lot of traction. So it's on us to continue pounding the pavement, attending all the shows, putting together a sales force, and trying to turn it into the brand that we've always imagined it to be. That when women go into an outdoor retailer of any kind, if they're there because they need adventure gear, as we call it, anything in the sun, the water, stand up paddleboard, diving, fishing, you name it, they have options there that are going to really suit their needs, that are going to make them feel super cute in while they're doing masculine things, which, they're not masculine, but that's how the world has shaped them for us to portray. So yeah, that's really my vision for Real Skipper. I wonder if Sam has the same vision. I'm sure she does.
I do. I share the
Yeah.
same vision. I actually, when we first uh, dreamt up Real Skipper, I said that I want Real Skipper to be like the fishing brand for women, in the sense of like how Roxy's like a women's surf brand, because it doesn't exist, and so I could see us basically being that one day at that level.
Without a doubt. And having that, because being at where you started, having some mom and pop shops have it, to being in Bass Pro Shops, to having your own storefront at one point, your brand has continued to grow and has continued to evolve. And it sounds like you are on the trajectory not to be a Roxy of the world, but to be the Real Skipper, and the Skipper of the world, the one that people walk into the store and be like, that's
Yeah.
that big brand. It started off as that cool, edgy brand that we kind of came from the underground, but now they're big, and they haven't changed their roots. They still have cats that just run across their desk while they're podcasting. Now, in terms of having an established brand that you're used to seeing in stores, we may not be able to protect the designs, but you have taken some steps to protect your brand, to make sure that you're able to plant your flag into this space and be able to build around it. What are some things that you've done legally to help to protect that brand, to make it lay the foundation for that established brand that's going to be in stores not only nationwide but internationally?
Well, that's easy. The first thing we did was hire the best trademark attorney in all of the United States. His name is
I'm all ears of, all right, all aside, because I think the bar rules can't have you say that I'm the best because it's not objectively verifiable, but 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 you did. I remember initially when you were just starting, you're like, hey, I think that we need to trademark this. I'm kind of not really sure of where to go. But as the market's become more and more flooded, I think that you've had several different trademarks over time, whether you've trademarked the Real Skipper name, you've trademarked kind of the fish hook, you've trademarked some different slogans. How important was that in terms of that part of that brand evolution process to be amongst one of the major players in the marketplace?
I would say very, and it goes to show it, based on our history, that there were other brands that did pop up with names very similar to ours, and they didn't grow in popularity to a point where we needed to bother with them. But if that were the case, like, we had the legal standing to do so, and that was important to us because if you're going to build an entire community around this brand name and everyone knows you as that, and for years and years and years you go to shows and you hang up your logo and sign saying who you are, if someone can come in and they trademarked theirs first that's very similar to ours, then all of a sudden we say, oh, you know what, we should probably trademark ours too. And now we can't because there's something too similar in existence in the market, even if we've been around longer. Creates a lot of trouble. And so you can sleep at night when you have your legal ducks in a row when it comes to your intellectual property rights and things of that nature.
Spoken not just like a
Yeah.
true entrepreneur, but also a true lawyer. I'm gonna high five you. Boom. So couldn't agree more. It's protecting the brand is so very important. And what you said about sleeping at night is kind of a big thing. And entrepreneurs hit this at different points in the process because no one thinks about, hey, I'm going to start a brand. And the first thing I want to do is trademark the darn thing. Just like you, we went into Bass Pro Shop. We didn't see something that was out there. We wanted to create something to life, and you have that. And coming up with that name and coming up with the brand and coming up with the entire vibe evolves over time. And being able to sleep at night to know that it's protected, and then you could focus on other things is great, because you're like, look, we may not want to enforce our trademark against everybody that's out there that's just dipping their toe into the marketplace, because we don't want to stress out about it. That's not really what our brand's about. But to the extent that people are not only taking our designs, now they're using our branding, now they're stealing some of our photos, now they've gone from just a competitor that's kind of flattering us by stealing an element to kind of trying to get to the root of who we are. And you've spent time, money, energy, effort, and years building the brand. And so having that, being able to be protected in that way, I'm sure allows you to sleep at night and allows you to focus on figuring out where you go from here and how you evolve the brand, instead of thinking about what am I doing about wasting my time with all the legal stuff that I really don't want to distract myself with as an entrepreneur, even though you are a lawyer as well.
Oh yeah, but I am done distracting myself with law.
Good.
I
So
want nothing to do with it.
that's it. Wipe my hands clean. I am done. Get this beep out of here, and I'm going to focus
Yeah.
on what it is that I love. And I hope that more people out there do what you two are doing, which is focusing on things you love. And as Sam said at the very beginning, focusing on what you love sometimes isn't easy. In fact, I think it's harder in a way to follow your dreams, because it's like each entrepreneur has a choice. You can live a safe, comfortable life where you are getting a paycheck, working for somebody else, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But to have a life that's not dictated by others and instead be able to bring that vision to life and do what you want to do is kind of like taking an adventure, as you say, with your adventure gear through a dangerous jungle, through a rough sea that you don't know exactly how it's going to look. You don't know how you're going to come out on the other end, and you don't exactly know what dangers you're going to face along the way. But going through those hard things and struggling through that process has allowed both you to evolve and your brand to evolve, and allowed you to probably be in places. And I'm sure I see you guys on Instagram being like, hey, we're going to Minneapolis. Like, this is dope. Whoever thought I'm going to Minneapolis or whatever. But taking you to new heights, taking your brand to new heights, and taking, your dream and putting it out there and seeing it resonate with people must feel absolutely incredible.
It is, and it makes it worth it, because we can have a whole podcast episode on just like the psychological and emotional effects of walking away from a cushy job that you worked your whole life for. I mean, like, that is a topic of conversation I can talk about for hours. To this day, God bless my grandparents. I love them so much. But to this day, my grandparents are still mad at me that I didn't become a judge, and instead I am quote unquote selling t-shirts, their words. So there's a lot of like layers to all of this. It's very complex, and there's so many societal pressures to take, the straight and narrow. But luckily, I think the culture has shifted a lot with these newer generations, and people feel a lot more free to, not be pressured into certain things as they used to be, which is great.
I love it. And so, Sam, I'm going to start by asking you this, and then I'm going to flip the same question over to Michelle as well. So there are other, as Michelle said, whether it's the younger generation that's out there that wants to follow their passions, whether it's someone like us that was kind of in the corporate world and then said, you know what, let's put our thing down, flip it and reverse it, and follow our hearts and follow our passions. And sneak preview, Michelle, there is going to be another podcast that we're doing all about following your dreams and the psychology that goes into it. So we're going to have you both back on that podcast as well. And guess what?
Awesome.
I was going to say,
It's my favorite
Part
topic.
two.
It really is.
Exactly. Stay tuned. Look at that. This is like a segue sneak preview. So you could hear more about it, because we could talk for hours. But I want to know, there's other entrepreneurs that are out there, regardless of their age, whether they are your grandma or grandpa that thought you were just doing a t-shirt company, but now realize you're doing something big and they want to start their own company too. Sam, what advice would you have for other entrepreneurs that are out there, other people who may have a vision or have their dream, but might be afraid to do it, might not know what to do? What's a piece of advice that you can pass on to other entrepreneurs that might help them in their journey?
I always say the number one thing is to ask for help, and it's not a race. It's like a marathon, right? Because you want to get to point A to point B to make the money. And if you can really quickly, that's amazing. Obviously, get that cash flow. But it's more than likely going to be many steps that you don't know. And there's going to be that learning curve, and that learning curve could hold you back. And the sooner you could find a mentor, hire somebody, whatever, ask a friend, ask Ethan Wall about laying a great foundation for your business, just do it, because it's going to hold you back when you think you have to take on all the responsibilities. So do that.
I love it. It reminds me of Baz Luhrmann from the song Everybody's Free to Wear Sunscreen, where he says the race is long, but in the end, it's only with yourself. And so having the courage sometimes to ask for help is something that can help to take you to the next level and get over those fears, to realize we don't have to do it all on our own.
Yeah, there's so many things you don't know. I don't know, a million things. I still don't know.
For sure.
Yeah.
And we don't have to do it on our own, and you're not doing it on your own, because
No.
I know that, as you said in the beginning, you and Michelle balance yourself out so very well. So Michelle, to balance out some of the advice that Sam has for other entrepreneurs, what's some advice that you might have for the next budding entrepreneur who wants to get out there and follow their dreams too?
I would say that one thing that we don't realize looking from the outside in is that don't fool yourself. No one knows what they're doing. And it's an important lesson I learned before starting Real Skipper. I was working for a commercial real estate developer for a short period of time. And this amazing project that was going up, and these people are dealing with millions and millions of dollars. And there's this team trying to make this thing happen. And it was a cool environment because it had like an entrepreneurial feel to it. And I was lucky enough to work directly with the developer. And I realized that all these people with these millions of dollars, and these landowners and these attorneys and the developer, are all just trying to figure it out. Every day we're just trying to figure it out. And it actually made me feel empowered because no one knows what they're doing. We're all figuring out day by day. That's why, like, when people say they have, imposter syndrome, which I suffer from time to time, you have to remind yourself that, like, no matter how high and mighty people, may seem to you, or how much, experience they have, we're all just human beings day to day figuring it out. There's no book that teaches you how to do, every little instance of what you're going to experience. So don't be intimidated by things. You have the capacity to figure it out. Me and Sam had no background in design, no background in e-commerce, in manufacturing.
Anything.
We just figured it out. Anything. I mean, literally, we couldn't be less prepared for what we did.
Yeah.
And yet
So,
here you are, and here you
we
are,
are.
and you've done it. You keep pushing
Yeah.
because you believe in yourself and in your vision, and you know in your heart that it's the right thing to do, and success will come. And success probably won't look, probably where you are, your success probably didn't look like what you thought about 5 or 6 years ago. But now you probably are dreaming bigger in certain respects, because you believed in yourself, and because you pushed through, and because you didn't have to have all the answers. You just had to be able to be brave enough to take that first step, which you did, and then push through whatever's there, like leaving the corporate world to focus on the stuff full time and take that leap, and realize that at the end of the day, taking that leap is not as dangerous as we think. Whatever those worst case scenarios are, they're not there. And it's not going to be a cushy feather bed that you fall into. But at the same time, you're going to continue to grow, and you can only do that by pulling the trigger and doing it, and you've done it. And now,
Right.
if people want to see that you've did it, they want to see more of you, they want to follow you, first, where can people find you on social media?
At Real Skipper, REEL Skipper, on every platform.
On all the platforms, Real Skipper.
All of them.
And Sam, if people want to, if women want to get their adventure gear, they want to join the community, where could people go to stock up on all of your latest gear?
Well, obviously we have our website, which is realskipper.com. But if you want a really great selection, I encourage you to visit local retailers who do a very great job at curating our lines. And well, it depends where you live, but we have a map on our website, realskipper.com, where you can search locally. But bigger, larger retailers would be Shields, pretty soon. I'm like, why am I blanking here?
Bells.
Bells, thank you.
Ron John Surf Shop.
Ron John Surf Shop, and sprinkled all the way up to Hawaii, and up in the Northeast. Yeah.
Incredible. So pretty much they're gonna be able to find you everywhere. But
Almost, yeah.
but going to realskipper.com, it's real skipper with two E's, or supporting your local retailers is always a great way to start for sure. But speaking of a great start, this is the great ending to an awesome podcast episode. You two rock, and I know that you're out there thinking, wow, Michelle and Sam, the Real Skipper team totally blew me away, and they did for me too. So the best way that you can show your love and show your support, in addition to picking up the gear, following them on social media, is to go online and leave a 5-star review for their episode and say, Michelle, Sam, you guys are great. Kick Ethan to the curb. Do your own podcast. So leaving a review for this podcast is a big help. If you like to follow entrepreneurial journeys like Michelle and Sam, and you like to learn about all the funky things that are happening in social media, I would love for you to subscribe to the Social Media Lawcast as well. Share it with your friends. You can also follow the Social Media Law Firm on, you guessed it, social media, by just typing in the Social Media Law Firm. We're on Instagram, really popular on LinkedIn, which is weird. Twitter, not so much. I'm not really good at tweeting. I haven't gotten it yet. But two people that have gotten it and have figured out the entrepreneurial journey so far, despite all of their initial struggles. You keep making me proud. You keep rising to new heights. Michelle, Sam, thank you so very much for being on the show today. I can't wait to see what y'all accomplish next.
Thanks so much for having us.